Party conferences are supposed to be about uniting the party, engaging the members, announcing policies. Needless to say, accidentally exposing the mobile phone numbers of everyone attending isn't quite part of the plan. So let's talk now to the man in charge of conference for the Conservatives, the party chairman, Brandon Lewis. I've got to ask you first about what happened with the Conservative Party app. I mean, this is not the start to conference that you wanted. How serious are you taking this?
Well, any breach of data is a serious matter, and that's why we are taking it seriously. We're investigating. We've already contacted the Information Commission, and we'll be putting in a fuller report to them. We've spoken to the company that supplied it, who themselves have put out a statement apologising for the error that they made. This will affect people where somebody has guessed or already knew somebody's email address and was able to therefore log in as them. So it will be a limited number of our delegates here, but we are contacting the delegates at conference to outline to them exactly what has happened and what they can do about that. But any breach is a serious breach, and that's why we are fully investigating it and are taking it very seriously.
When you say it's a limited number of delegates, but these are some potentially very important people affected. I mean, the Foreign Secretary, for example, is the former Foreign Secretary, one of them. I mean, who's responsible for it, and how many people are we actually talking about?
Well, I can't get into the details at the moment in terms of the numbers, because we're doing that investigation at the moment, working with the company who supplied the app, who supply companies like Barclays and Nissan and eBay for conferences and things around the world. But it is serious. Any breach of data is serious. That's why we are taking it seriously.
So who's responsible then?
Within finding out about this issue yesterday, within half an hour we had fixed this problem. The company had shut that security issue down. So the app is now functioning fully, properly and securely. There are a number of delegates where if somebody logged in who already knew their email address, they would have been able to see the photograph, the email address that they'd used to log in, and if it was there, a mobile phone number. And that's happened. That has affected a few people, as you've rightly outlined, and we are working with all of the delegates at conference to let them know exactly what has happened.
You see, it's easy to talk about this as like an embarrassment, but actually it could be serious, couldn't it? You and I both know how toxic our political discourse can be at the minute. You know, people in the public eye get rape threats and death threats on Twitter. I mean, can you look me in the eye and say that those threats are not now going to be sent to somebody's mobile phone number because someone's happened to guess their email address?
Well, as I say, we are working with all the delegates.
You don't know that, do
We're
you?
working with all the delegates at conference. We're doing a full investigation to see what exactly and who exactly was able to be accessed in this way. But as I say, somebody had to already have their email address,
so
then fraudulently be able to go and access them. For some people, yes, you can. And actually, one of the things we have got to be careful about in our society, and I've talked about this a lot over the last few months, is that ability to have proper, robust debate, but with respect, without that kind of hard abuse that we are seeing, I would argue, for many on the hard left, particularly on social and digital media. Now, security issues and address. As I say, I'm not for a moment saying any breach is anything other than serious. That's why we are taking it seriously. It's why we dealt with it within half an hour of being aware of it yesterday. That's why the company has put its statement out, and we will be putting a full report in with an investigation into the Information Commissioner's office.
Did you consider resigning?
Look, at the moment I'm focused on making sure that conference goes well, that the attendees have a really good conference. That yesterday we got that app sorted as quick as we possibly can, and we get to the bottom of exactly how that happened and why it happened.
Okay. Let's move on to things I'm sure you're perhaps more comfortable talking about, which is the message that you're going into this Conservative Party conference with. Because what we've seen in the last week or so is a whole range of Conservative MPs effectively coming forward and saying you're not offering a distinctive enough vision compared to Labour. I mean, the list here, Sam Gyimah, Liz Truss, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Robert Halfon, Priti Patel, Boris Johnson, all spoken out. So can you tell me what is the distinctive message that these MPs can go out and sell on the doorstep?
Well, I think there's a couple of things I would say to that. First of all, I think one of the strengths of the Conservative Party is that we are and do have this great wide tent of family people with buzzing with ideas, and you'll see a lot of that this week at conference, as the government itself will also be outlining our ideas and our plans for the next period of time in government to take our country forward in a really positive way. And actually that's in big contrast.
So what is the distinctive message?
Well, as I say,
then?
I think two things. I think that is in big contrast. What we saw last week was old hat ideas that actually would affect pensioners, really damage pensioners in terms of the equity proposals. The changes in corporation tax would affect jobs. What we as a party will be outlining this week is about how we want to make sure we are giving opportunity to people, a good education, the chance to benefit from more jobs in our economy, to have job security and the investments we're making in both infrastructure and in our public services.
You see, I asked for the distinctive message, and the things that you listed there are things that most parties could probably say, aren't they? You know, we want to give a good education, we want to give opportunities. I mean, what is distinctive about what you're offering?
I think there's a very big difference between us and the Labour Party.
But not let's not talk about Labour. You know, I know what you're going to say about Labour.
You're saying, Sophie, what's distinctive? What is distinctive is these are things we are doing, and we are outlining very firm plans about how to take them further into the future. Not things that can't be afforded, not things that can't be delivered. Things we are doing and things we can do in the future to make people's lives better.
What is that distinctive vision?
Well, it is about making sure we are providing the things that matter to people every day, about making sure they do get a good education. We're building more homes for people to be able to get a home of their own for them and their family, to make sure we are investing in our NHS in the long term, to make sure it continues to be a world-leading health service. That is how we invest in our public services, and the biggest investment programme in our infrastructure and our roads and rail that we've seen in a generation, making sure we're getting our country ready and fit for the future.
I just want to have a look at what Robert Halfon said in particular. He wrote, he's an MP for Harlow, the problems for the Conservatives is that the Corbyn description of what's going on resonates with millions of people. Failing railways, increased homelessness, families struggling despite working every day, our infrastructure under strain, high streets closing, crime on the rise. I mean, all of these things are true, aren't they? Can you really say that people's lives are better now compared to when you first came into power 8 years ago? Yes,
look, there's nearly 2 million more children getting good and outstanding education than in 2010. There's about 1,000 new jobs a day being created since 2010. For housing, we have actually increased. Labour left us with the lowest level of house building since about 1923 at about 75,000 homes a year. We're back up to 220,000 and rising, so that we are delivering, getting onto that average we want to build of 300,000 homes a year. We're investing more in our NHS than ever before. So yes, we are doing those things. We've also got to make sure we take the opportunity of a week like this to be talking about that and explaining why that is good and why it's delivering things for people, as opposed to Labour's promises that just can't deliver. And often, as we've seen in the last year, they then renege on later anyway. Well,
one of the you're announcing a policy today, aren't you, around housing and stamp duty? Just quickly explain what
we've recognised is people have said for some time that they get frustrated, particularly in our cities, in somewhere like London, that people from overseas will come in and buy properties when actually they want to see British people and people from the UK having first option on those properties. So what we're doing, we've already changed the rules so the properties have to be advertised here in the UK, but for people overseas, people who are not UK taxpayers will pay an extra stamp duty. We're going to consult on the figure, but around 1%, we're going to consult to see if that's the right figure. And the money, the income from that comes to government will go into rough sleeping, helping some of the most vulnerable people in the country.
You spoke a bit earlier about how you're hoping that you're going to be able to talk about the sort of domestic vision, if you like. Does it worry you sometimes that it feels like all the kind of bandwidth is taken up by Brexit in a minute? I mean, that's fine for, obviously it's very important, 6 months towards leaving the EU, but for you, you're in charge of getting votes. It's not really the most exciting thing to be selling on the doorstep, is it?
Well, Brexit is, as you say, it's a huge issue for our country, one of the biggest projects the government has undertaken of any type since probably the Second World War. And it is hugely important that we get this right, that we get the deal with the European Union that delivers for the country and respects the referendum. So that is a big issue. And the media and people around the country are interested in that. But what we saw this year in the local elections, where we had a really good set of results, and what you'll see at conference this week is us talking about what happens after Brexit as well. That domestic agenda, as I say, delivering for people in their lives every single day.
Now, you mentioned the local elections where you say did well. Obviously, the last general election was a bit of a disappointment for you, to say the least. Labour say they are on an election footing, they're ready to go. Are you ready for an election?
Well, I'm working on the local elections for 2019. The next general election is 2022. And
but it might come before that, mightn't it? Are you ready to go if there was an election earlier?
I'm not working in hypotheticals. The election we are working on, the next election is the local elections next year. The general election is 2022. And no, we didn't get the result we wanted last year, but we did show in the local elections this year when Labour said they were going to win pretty much every council seat, I think, certainly in London, if not the country. Actually, Labour didn't do that. We had the success in the local elections this year, making gains all over the country, taking back control of a council from Labour in London, in Barnet, and actually Labour didn't win any of those councils. So I think we showed in those elections that we can do that job, we can win those local elections, but that was just stage one. There is a big piece of work for us to do, and we've got big local elections next year. year.
Will Theresa May lead the Conservatives into the next general election?
I hope she will, and I think she will, yes, because this is the Prime Minister who's bringing our country together, getting that deal with the European Union. I'm confident we will get a good deal with the United Kingdom and the EU that delivers on the referendum, delivers for our economy in the future, and with that strong domestic agenda delivering for people right across our country, I think that's a powerful message to go into the next general election with.
And now, while we've got you, I want to ask you about Sky's campaign for an independent commission to see leaders' debates at general elections. Is that something you'd welcome?
Well, I'm not yet seen too many times where Quangos and commissions has given us the perfect answer to everything. I think we've got to look at where we are at the general election, look at what is happening in the country, and make a decision at that point.
At the same time, though, you know, the whole point of having an independent commission is to take it out of the hands of politicians and also the broadcasters, so that it's, you know, an independent body working out the details. That's got to be a good thing, hasn't it?
Well, I think actually...
Don't you want to see more democracy?
Well, actually I do, and that's what the general election itself is about. People going out and voting based on the information they get from their local candidates, what they get through the national media, the social and digital media, I think will be increasing at the next election, possibly to the point where it overtakes many other things if we're looking 3 or 4 years down the line. So I think we do need to look at this much nearer the time and take a decision based on what is happening in media across the country.
So you're not ruling it out, though? You think it could be a good idea?
I'm not ruling it out, I'm not ruling it in either. I think we need to look at where we are a bit nearer the time.
OK, Brandon Lewis, thank you very much.